Hi, so this is part 2 of 3 or 4 maybe of the presentation about comet actors with Lift. So in this we're covering going from snippets to comet. So most users, when they start using Lift, they start by using snippets, and then they're very happy with them. They can create forms, lists, do all kinds of things. Everything is great. Then you hear about comet, and you start translating your code from snippets to comet, and that's when unexpected things happen. And what do I mean by that? Well, comet actors in Lift are not implemented the same way as snippets. They sit at different layers on the whole like HTTP request and cycle. You can, like, the snippet has information, like access to information from each request, like the headers and all that. Comet actors don't really have that access. Well, there's a way to get to that, but for the most part you can assume that you don't have access to that information. But you do get like access to a lot of information from the session. So before we go like too deep into this, you will hear like people talk about requests in Lift, and at least in my case, I remember the first time I heard request, I didn't think it meant what it really means in Lift. So a request in Lift means that is the rendering of a page, like the time it takes and all the process and the information to render the page. And the request is also like all the following AJAX calls that happen after the page renders. So let's say you render a page, so that's one request. Then you send a few AJAX requests. Like, you know, there could be like a few buttons or links in a page, and as long as there's not a full page reload, you're still on the same request. Like, you still have access to the same information. Then if you reload the page, or there's like a regular form submit which forces a full request, then you have again a new Lift request going on. So that's something good to keep in mind, because it could be a little confusing at first. Now back to Comet. So I was saying how Comet actors don't have access to the request information. There is a way to get access to this information on the initial request that created the Comet actor, and I'm going to go into details on how to do that. And then something else is, before I talk briefly about the S singleton in Lift. If you're familiar with Lift, chances are you use it. Basically, from this singleton you get access to a lot of information about the request and about the session. Things like the port number, the path, the URL, query parameters, I mean just about anything, like, I mean, all the header information, and then session and the language of the browser. I mean you get all kinds of information from there. Now when you call them from a Comet, you, like, most of the time that information will be empty. Then something else to consider, or to remember, or to keep in mind, I would say, is that you get one Comet actor session. So let's go back on the example of an eBay website. So if you have you're looking at an item and it's a Chromebook, and then you open a new tab and you look at the same Chromebook, both tabs on your browser are going to be served by the same Comet actor. The same Comet actor you're going to use. So like, the idea is that you enter the first request, Lift checks in the server, is there already a Comet actor showing a Chromebook for the user? If there's none, it will create a new one, and you will get information from that Comet. On the second and all the following requests from the tabs, you will see that there's already a Comet actor displaying this Chromebook, so you will get the same, like, you won't create a new instance of the class, you will just reuse this one. So this is very good, like, performance wise. Like, it would be a waste to create so many Comets. Plus, because if you want to send an update, you want both browsers to get an update at the same time, and you don't want to have to, like, tell, like, different instances of the same class, or now there's a new price, or this new information. But it's, you know, something to consider. Then talking about the limitations or like things that are different from a comet actor. So some of the things that are different are request bars. You don't have access to them, they're all going to be empty. You do have access to session bars, so you can access those. Well, if you want I18N support, like if you want to support different languages, by default it won't work, but it's a very easy way to fix it. I mean, to change it so it works from comets too, and I will go into details in a few slides. But the reason why it doesn't work is because by default Leaf checks the language setting of the request from your browser, and as I said before, because comet actors don't have by default access to the request, it doesn't know which language your browser is set to, so then it won't know which language you need to render the messages. And then I said before how many methods from the S singleton will just be empty, like s.path and many others, because we don't have access to the request. And you might find that some, but these are related to the session. I actually haven't gone into detail, but I think that like you still get them empty. This I should actually check before saying that. Anyways, I guess you had to check if some or not on all of them will give you the information you expect. Now I do know that these 4 methods do work from comet actors because I actually tested them. So as error, notice, and warning, they all work. If you haven't used them before, basically what they do is you use them at the end of processing some data. If a user submitted some data and it was invalid, you call s.error and within parentheses the error message, and that error message will be displayed on the UI. Notice is like congratulations, you saved your item, and a warning, a warning. And then s.run template it takes 1 parameter or 2. Most of the time you send it just 1 parameter, which is a path to a template, and what it will do is it will execute, it will process the template through the Leaf pipeline, and then it will give you the HTML that it will normally display on the UI. This is very useful if you want to send HTML emails to your users. So like you can set some session variables or some data to hold information like the username and some dates and stuff like that. You call run template, and it will evaluate based on that data how you want. It will evaluate the template, and it will replace the tags and all that, and you will get like a nice HTML that you can include in it to send to your users. So I said before how there was a way to access the initial request from a comet actor. This is how you do it. So first you need to override this first method, send initial request. It's a boolean, so by default it's false. You set it to true, and then you can override the capture initial request function. It first takes the initial request, and then within brackets you can do something with it. You can either set some session variable, or send a message to an actor, or do like all kinds that you want to do. This is one way to do it. A way that I prefer doing things when I need to send my comet actors some data from the request is I send a message using a snippet. So I will just include like a small snippet next to a comet actor on the page, and then so the snippet is the one that sends the comet actor, okay, this is the information that you need for this one page that we just loaded. Let's see what's next. So one of the things that I said before that stops working, and users, you will here and there you will see emails on the mailing list saying how like, oh, internet local was working when I had a snippet, I changed to comet and it stopped working. And yeah, it stopped working because it doesn't have access to the request. So how do we fix that? So you do 2 things. So first, on your boot class, you will go ahead and add this rule, this Leaf rule, which basically in this case what I'm doing is I'm telling you what it will do is it will access the value of a session bar. And notice here how I'm just ignoring the first parameter because it will be empty. Like for the comet actor, the HTTP request will always be empty. But it doesn't matter because we know that, and what we want to do is just read the value from the session bar. And then this session bar is just a simple thing like session bar commit locale, you extend session bar, and then you give it a default value. This is just like plain like Scala Java code, like nothing strange. I will actually go ahead and I'll include with this presentation a link to a project on GitHub where you will have like a full example of like how to access the locale. I'm going to like add a few more things related to Comet in that example, so you have exactly like a running application that you can like play around with and change things and see how it works. Let's see something else. So comet creation. So I said before how you get one comet per session. This is, I mean, useful, and like it saves resources and all that, so that's great. And the idea is, so like the normal workflow is that a user will go ahead and it will like load, it will load the page, a URL on your server, and then, like I said before, like Lyft will like check if there's already a commit to satisfy the request. It will just give you that commit actor, and if not, it will go ahead and it will create a new one. Now it will check for a few things, like besides checking just for the class name, it will also check for a name. So a commit actor can have a class and a name. The name is optional, so it can be empty most of the time, but you can set, so then like if you have like a commit actor items, that renders different items, you can set the name to tell the commit actor which item is actually displaying. So let's say that you want to use the ID of your items as a name, so then it will be class items and name 2. Actually it will be full 2, because it needs to be a box. So then like when you get from the URL, if it has the item number 2, you will know that that's the item you're showing. If you change the number to 3, then it will be okay, I don't have a commit actor for this session for item 3, let me create a new one. And so that's what we'll do. And that's about naming your commit. So this is, for example, a URL. So now you have your host, item, and number 2. So then it will look up all the actors that will display, that know how to display an item, and it will have to have the name number 2. Now something to remember, a commit actor, like Lyft by default will keep your commit actor alive for the length of your session. So if you start using names for your commit actors, it will be very good to use this to overwrite lifespan. It's a box, so then you do full 120 seconds. So then the idea is that if this commit actor is not present on any page for about 120 seconds, then it will shut down. You might be tempted to reduce this to just 10 seconds or like 2 seconds. The thing is it's more or less an estimation, the 120 seconds. So I think the minimum will be something like 70 seconds or 90 seconds. I can't remember exactly now. So like don't rely this on being like exactly okay. You check the time and in 120 seconds it will shut down. It's more or less like an approximation, and that's because of the way it's implemented. Like it's actually very hard to detect that a user is not in a browser anymore. I actually have like a side project I'm working on trying to like make it more accurate, but like all the different browsers have different ways to like tell the server that somebody got disconnected, so it's hard to like unify way to do this. But just something to remember, like all your commit actors, you want to always overwrite lifespan to something like 120 seconds or more, so that all those classes can just get garbage collected and they're not taking memory and resources on your server. Then talking about shutdown, Lyft gives you these 2 methods that you can call. There is local setup and local shutdown. What they do is, as you would imagine, local setup is called when Lyft sets up the comet actor for the first time. So if there's anything that you want to do on comet creation, you go ahead and you override the local setup. You can do some logging or like do something else, and then remember to call super.local setup, because for example on the name comet actor trait that I showed in the previous video, I actually used local setup so that each comet actor, as soon as it's created, then it goes ahead and registers itself with a dispatcher. So if you then on your comet code you don't call super.local setup, then the version won't work, and I need that happening. So please remember to call super.local setup. And for shutdown is the same. You override shutdown, and if you want to do something when your comet actor dies, like send an email to somebody or anything. And going back to example on the name comet trait, I use local shutdown to unregister the comet from the list, so that the dispatcher will know, okay, this comet actor is not present anymore. I don't have to send a message to this comet anymore, and because nobody's watching. Then Lyft gives you a few ways to set up a comet. Most of the time you won't initiate comets from code. You would just include your HTML tags on a template, and as soon as the page is rendered on the browser, then Lyft will handle that. There are a few cases where you might want to manipulate this information. So this is one way. This method that you can call from a session, comet setup. The type is the name of the class that you want to use. So whenever you see help information about comet, we call type when we really mean the class name of the comet actor. Then the name, as I said before, is a box string, and then the message type any, because you can send any message you want. Most of the time I will encourage you to send case classes or case objects to your comet actors, but you can send them anything you want. Then this is one example of how you could set up a comet. I'm sure you have seen code like this before. Basically, so you get access to the session from the singleton. It's a box, so that's what we're using for. And then so there you set up a comet, name my comet actor, in this case a name, Sam item 2, and then in this case we're just sending a plain string hi comet to the message. Hi comet is the message that we send to the actor. And that is the end of the second video, and now we'll move on to